All right, so first and foremost, I'm doing this response for two reasons. One, I believe that there's a lot of misinformation and bad opinions out there about this particular topic. And two, I think the reason why some people, particularly myself, are a little disappointed about this gets lost in this in the nuance and rhetoric going back and forth between the two dominant sides. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about is the RZA's uh, response to police brutality and his comments on it. And I'm not going to play those here, but feel free to look them up on your own time. Um, Essentially, here are my issues. The first thing that came out of his mouth regarding Black Lives Matter was All Lives Matter, and um, on this video, I'm gonna attach a picture to it, but um, essentially, my issues with All Lives Matter should be pretty well known if you follow me on any sort of social media or anything like that. Um, my primary concerns and issues with it was that it was a reactionary quote unquote movement to the Black Lives Matter movement, and the way I saw it is that it was an attempt to placate real issues and sort of make up pseudo issues. It was not about all lives mattering. It was about saying that black people have no right to issue their petitions manner that they see fit regarding issues that they brought up. Um, if you look at the Black Lives Matter movement and the sort of energy that came out of the All Lives Matter movement and the Blue Lives Matter movement, I think it's pretty obvious that these movements were only created to counter the Black Lives Matter movement. They were not meant to garner support for the All Lives Matter movement, nor were they designed to assist with the All Lives Matter movement. And what really kind of ticked me a little bit was the fact that, you know, right after he said All Lives Matter, he talked about being a vegan, which I don't know if he's unaware why Black Lives Matter was made, but or the issues or grievances that the the movement was designed to talk about. Um, but whatever. I mean, that's fine. But let's get to the heart of the matter. RZA basically suggested that the way black people are dressed and the way um, the way that our dress allows us to be perceived is a contributing factor to the state violence that some black people and many white people too are facing, and that maybe we should adjust our dress so that we don't strike fear into the hearts of white cops and some black cops. And I'm just going to do this. I'm going to read off some numbers, okay? And before I do that, I want to go on record stating two things. One, there's nothing original about that line of reasoning. Uh, Respectability politics has been something that's been around for a very long time. The actual term was coined by a black feminist, but she actually went on an NPR interview and basically stated that the way it's being used now has nothing to do with her original meaning, which is important because the way I believe it's being used now is um, essentially this: assume the dominant culture's standards of what is safe and good, and the dominant culture would not have a reason to harm you. There was a really good NPR article on this, which I might link in this video when I get it uploaded. But it talked about how, cut your hair. You know, change your hair if you're talking about black women. Change your hair to something that is more manageable and more European like. Change your dress, change your name, or have a name that is more pronounceable and more culturally ambiguous, which in this country means closer to a white or European name. And for the record, my name is Kevin, so it's not like it's not like I'm not actually in that number as well. But change the way you talk, change where you live, and all of these things, and really just change your attitudes and your responses to things, and then maybe the state won't harm you. And I think what this is analogous to is when someone's in an abusive relationship, or if someone was in an abusive relationship, and you're talking to that individual, and this person's being abused and harmed, and the first thing you say is, well, maybe you should have worn the makeup that that person likes, or why didn't you cook the food that they like, or how did you talk to the person? And sorry about that, but I think that's divisive and dangerous. Feminists have this idea of rape culture, but and I'm not saying I co-opt everything in that theory, but I think that there is a similar culture of state violence apologetics, especially among the affluent, or the which in the black community means high middle class, and the more conservative wings of black people, as well as just in general. There's this idea that it is the onus of the person who's being abused to placate the abuser in order to prevent further abuse, and literally no other case we would apply this kind of logic, except for in the narrow circumstances of state violence and the abuser and abuse relationship. Um, and I think it's fascinating. Personally, I think it has a lot to do with state propaganda and the way that this state is viewed by a large amount of people, you know, um, especially older whites and whites in general, but even a lot of excuse me, of older blacks as well sort of have the same ideology. And there's been Pew studies that have come out that have shown this sort of differences in the trust of the criminal justice system and the police in general, between blacks and whites, and it's like 20% or 30% difference. So I believe the blacks had like a 30% trust, and I should say it was doubled. I think whites had like a 50 or 60% trust of the criminal justice system, and I may link that to this video as well. And I could be getting my stats a little off, but the link will correct me. But at any rate, so what I want to do is I want to read some stats. And this is just from two cities. So hold on a minute. And so in 2011, New Yorkers were stopped 685,724 times. 605,328 times were totally innocent. That means there was nothing found. 350,000 were black. 223,000 were Latino, and 61,000 were white. That was in 2011. Okay. In 2012, New Yorkers were stopped 532 100,000 times. So 473 100,000 were totally innocent. Of that, 284 were black, 165 were white, and 50,000 were I'm sorry, 165 were white or Latino, and 50,000 were white. And I'm going to skip to 2014, which this, if I recall correctly, there had been a change in policy But let's talk about it. So in 2014, 45,787 times. That's how many times New Yorkers were stopped. Of that, 37,000 were totally innocent. Again, so about 82%. 24,000 were black, 12,000 were Latino, 5,000 were white. Okay? So that's from New York. And I'm going to read something from Chicago. Um, so last summer, and from when this document was published, which I believe was last year, there were 250,000 stops that did not lead to an arrest. And the thing about Chicago is that their data on this thing really sucks. So 72% of the stops were made by black people or made on black people. And what's interesting about that is blacks are just 32% of the population. And the vast majority of those stops were not, did not produce any crime or anything, or any offense. So what I'm talking about here is stop and frisk and the way it was implemented. And how I'm tying this back together is this. This is not a policy that is saying, oh, well, this black person's wearing jeans and a large t-shirt and we're going to stop them. This is a policy that is racial. And what I find funny, and kind of going back to what I said about how this isn't original, last year during the, or actually this was now 2014, man, I'm getting my ears messed up. This was 2014 during the ALS challenge. There was a guy named Malik S. King, a Marine, which kind of doesn't surprise me that this kind of thought process would come out of that kind of area. But anyway, so there was a guy who tried to make another challenge called the Pull Up Your Pants Challenge. And I'm going to read this, read his words if I can find them. Let's see. Okay. Okay. We're quick in our communities to talk about racial profiling, but what we don't want to focus on is what we're doing to contribute to the problem, even if just a little bit. Hard stop. So, please, when I say that this respectability politics is about placating state aggression or sort of state violence apologetics, it's not like I'm saying these things and they're without evidence. So let's continue. We need to start thinking about how we represent ourselves, how we talk, how we act, how we deal with the police. We need to stop talking, acting, and living like thugs and start talking, acting, and living like men. Stop making the conscious decisions to fit the description. Hard stop. So there's a suggestion there, right? There's a suggestion that, all blacks, or many blacks, or every black that is having issues with the police is having issues because of the way we talk, we act, and how we deal with the police, and how we're living like thugs, And there's, of course, there's the comparison between thugs and men and fitting the description. So I have a problem with this as a response. Now, I put no merit in the quote-unquote thug life. It's not something that I've ever espoused, nor is it something that I am supportive of in and of itself. However, when you're talking about dress and you're talking about actual talking, I think that there's a problem there because what you're saying is you have to talk a certain way to the police in order to prevent from having actual problems. I believe there is an attempt to placate the police, which I believe is actually pretty destructive. And I think that really that speaks to a problem with the police and not to the people themselves. What I mean by this, um, maybe I don't speak yes sir, no sir, and so on and so forth to everyone. But that doesn't mean I don't respect them. That doesn't mean that I'm a person who is being antagonistic. Maybe there's a language there that I speak regularly that the police don't understand. Well, um, there has to be a middle ground there, right? And the middle ground cannot be reached if you're always putting the onus on on basically on black people and really urban people, and not ever putting that onus on the police ever. Um, you almost never see this happen from the more conservative and the people who usually espouse respectability politics. It's the onus is always on black people or urban people or whomever's being oppressed at the time to change their ways in order to placate the aggressor. And I think that that's dangerous. I think that it's wrong. I do think it's bootlicking, but really the real damaging effect is that the standard may change. Let's say you know every black person for some reason um, decides that we're no longer wearing white t-shirts and jeans. Now, for the record, I don't wear white t-shirts, jeans, and athletic shoes pretty much at all. I mean, I do wear jeans, but I don't wear that in combination ever. Um, just not my style. But what then? Okay, what's going to be the excuse then when we're still getting stop and frisk? And it's been pretty much since antiquity that black people have had issues with the police, and then no matter what our dress, no matter how much money we make, where we live, the criminal justice system and the police have been a problem for us since forever. Even since the origin of the police, we've had a problem, and that's to be expected. So all I'm saying is this: it's important for us to deal with problems and compartmentalize accordingly. I'm not singing the merits of dressing with white t-shirts and sagging pants or whatever, or athletic shoes or whatever. But that is not a justification for state aggression. Um, and what's scary to really think about, if you think about what they're really saying and taking it to a particular kind of logical conclusion, what they're saying is you're dressing up as the uniform or in the uniform of the enemy. That's what you're saying. And what's scary about that is the citizens and the people of the particular area where a cop is doing their job are not the enemy. The vast majority of people aren't, and you can't have true community policing, and you can't have good police interactions if you're pointing your fingers at a particular group, a large group, and saying they're dressed up like the enemy. We're going to harass these people no matter what. Because what that does is that feeds into this stereotype in the narrative that the police are against us. And what really it should be is an attempt for an open dialogue. So I'm not saying everyone in white t-shirts and jeans are angels. And I'm not saying every single police officer is racist. But I am saying that signals do matter. And if you're going to suggest that the people who are living their lives, who are just walking down the street, have to change their signal, then maybe we really should be adjusting who's actually receiving the signal and how much they know about the community that they're policing. So that's it. I don't have too much to say or much more to say about that. I am wearing a hoodie right now, but I'm indoors, so and I do wear hoodies all the time. and I'm generally respectful to everyone. But I know that because of the way I look, because I've got all this hair now, it's kind of matted down, but I've got all this hair, I've got this hair on my face, that people are going to think certain things about me. But I still demand respect because I give respect. And really, that's what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about white t-shirts and jeans and athletic shoes. We should be talking about a general lack of respect between the police and the citizens. And respect goes both ways. So I don't want to hear that, this changing our dress is going to be a panacea for all of these problems. But what I think is going to be the solution is going to be just more interaction with the police, outside of, criminal activities. Police who actually know the area, community relations boards, which people on the left have been pushing for a long time. And I believe they have some of this stuff out in California, and I've heard of it works really well. And that kind of stuff. Of course, also ending the war on drugs, which I believe, if we wanted to improve police relations immediately, decriminalize all drugs, every single drug there is. But that's another topic for another video. So that's it. I don't have too much more to say. I'll be putting up another video, hopefully later today, and I'll talk to you guys next time.